Hello everyone, welcome to Cookies True Crime Adventures. I thought I'd make another video. This one's about IPP prisoners and awareness around what's going on for them. You know, I think it's disgraceful what's going on. Every IPP prisoner I've ever met, right, has had problems dealing with accepting the situation that he's in. And not all, but a lot of them end up with serious bad behavioural problems. You know, they end up on drugs. And, on this sentence, on this recall that I've just been on, there was one who was fitting all the time on that fish stuff. He's waiting on a parole hearing. He's been waiting 18 months, but he keeps on going on a code blue where the screws come and the nurses, and he gets a bit of medical attention, and he banged behind his door and left. You know, it's not nice what's happening to these people. It's really not nice. And this video is about raising awareness around this issue, because our government really is breaking international law. It's inhumane what they're doing to these people. These people have had 3-year tariffs, 2-year tariffs, 18-month tariffs, and they've done decades. They've spent over 10 years in prison. They've some 17, 20 years in prison. Some of them have never even gotten out. This is how bad it is in there. A lot of them have killed themselves, just can't cope with accepting the situation that they're in, and this constant living in misery. They're under the same, the problem is that they're treated like lifers. So they're judged the same way I'm judged in the prison system. Right? I was very lucky. Right? I actually found rehabilitation. It was difficult, but I found it. These Mickey Mouse courses, they're monetized. Do you know what they've actually done in prison? They've monetized addressing offending behaviour. They actually monetized it, right? To the point where you've got 60% of the prison population, right, who reoffend, and these courses didn't work. The only things that really, for me, that I see that work properly is these therapeutic communities, the real ones. There's only a couple in the prison system, Grendon being one, and I think Dovegate's one as well. I think they're doing good work at Dovegate as well. Them's the two prisons, but Grendon is number one on this to address your offending behaviour. The only trouble is, for these IPP prisoners, is when they get to a place like Grendon and they get a chance to address their offending behaviour, their heads are so damaged by the situation that they're in, they cannot do it. They cannot move forward positively. They get on one of these Mickey Mouse courses and their behaviour's alright. But once they finish that Mickey Mouse course, the behaviours just kick straight back in. Because they're living in misery. These people are really living in misery and didn't deserve to be in prison. So watch this next bit of video that I put together from off YouTube. I get emotional when I watch it, because it really hits home for me of what's going on for IPP prisoners and the psychological damage that's done to them. So here we're going, folks.
I don't know why they've kept you in 18 years. I don't know what the reason is.
There is no reason, mate.
Graham's talking to his son Carl, who's in prison. He was sentenced to 18 months when he was 27 for an assault following a road rage incident. Now 43, Carl's never been released.
On I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, mate, to be honest.
Well, we're up Friday, ain't we? So just think of that.
Wait to see you.
IPP, or imprisonment for public protection sentences, were introduced by Labour in 2005. Meant for serious offenders, some prisoners ended up being locked up indefinitely for minor crimes. With no release date, many developed severe psychological issues. For Carl, that led to him cutting off part of his ear.
This probably started when we lost my mum a few years ago. He wasn't even allowed to the funeral. He was left in the cell just to bleed out. There's been no support, no treatment. It's been absolutely shocking.
Oh, I can't even talk when I think about it.
No, I know I said I wasn't going to be like this anymore, but I just can't help it, mate. And then when you were asking how I'm truly feeling, it's just, this is how I'm feeling, mate, all the time. I can't help it, I feel embarrassed.
Just listen, no,
No, there's
listen.
nothing to be embarrassed about, Carl.
Be strong, bruv. Be strong.
Carl was refused release in 2018. He's had no parole hearing since, and he's currently being held in a maximum security prison.
Listen, see you Friday, right?
All right, love you.
Love
Love
you.
you too.
Chin up.
Love you, Dan. I'll see you Friday, mate.
See you Friday, right? Ta-ra, love you. Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
There's thousands of IPP prisoners still in prison when they shouldn't be. I just think it's just torture, and it's something needs to be done. So we're supposed to be a fair democracy.
See, this country, to be honest, is full of shit. It's full of shit, right? They blame every other country for their human rights, China or whoever. And we're up there with them. We're up there with them.
Even the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture is now investigating after campaigners such as Shirley de Bono brought it to her attention.
This is one of the most egregious miscarriages of justice that I've seen in the UK justice system, which is renowned for being based on the rule of law.
When you first heard about the IPP sentence, what was your feelings?
Disbelief, as a general rule, under human rights law, but also general criminal procedure, people are not sentenced to preventive detention. This is arbitrary detention as a general rule under international laws.
IPP sentences were abolished in 2012, but there are nearly 3,000 prisoners still being held. Dr. Edwards has written to the government to demand action.
I think they infringe on fundamental human rights. And, you know, part of the next stages really needs to also be a process of reparations, rehabilitation and compensation, both to the individuals and to the families. They have suffered miscarriages of justice.
The UK government is yet to respond. A year ago, the Justice Select Committee said all IPP prisoners should be resentenced, but the government rejected their advice. We've discovered in the following weeks 6 IPP prisoners took their own lives. And the government's own figures show 81 IPP prisoners have committed suicide since the sentence was introduced.
You can't lock people up in prison without an end date. The hope's gone. A person with no hope don't have no existence in life. You're killing people. You're literally killing people.
Imagine someone put a bag over your head and you're in complete darkness. You don't know when they're going to take it off. You're going to go mad at some point.
One guy, an IPP prisoner, he was stressed out, The officers was ignoring him. He was on a suicide watch, I understand, They was just leaving him in the cell all the time, And his friend just heard like someone falling over on the cupboards. I woke up and he said, someone's dead. I said, you're lying.
If IPP prisoners get out, their ordeal isn't over.
Hi, Martin. Come in. I'm good, yeah.
That's because they are released on a 99-year licence, meaning they can be recalled back to prison at any point, even for minor infringements like being late to a probation meeting. Nicole used to be addicted to drugs and took part in a robbery. She was sentenced to 18 months.
I went to prison 2007. I got out 2011. I was out for 7.5 years. I'd built my whole life in Southampton, so to be instantly recalled like that with no kind of help or support, it was hard. It was hard.
Because of her lifelong licence, she has been recalled 3 times, twice for relapsing and once for going on holiday without telling her probation officer. In total, she spent nearly a decade behind bars.
So how frustrating is it to have been in the community for so many years and then to be continuously recalled for no crime committed?
In the beginning, it was very hard. You know, I wanted to take my life. You know, there was no end goal. Sorry. It's just really hard.
According to the Ministry of Justice, between 2020 and 2022, 19 IPP prisoners out on licence took their own lives. They told us,
"We are helping those still in custody to progress towards release, including improving access to rehabilitation programmes and mental health support. While public protection will always be our priority, we are carefully considering what additional measures might be put in place."
until the government bows to increasing pressure to right this injustice, many thousands of men and women remain suffering in purgatory.
Well, let's talk now to Mark Day, the Deputy Director of the Prison Reform Trust and its representative on the Ministry of Justice's IPP External Stakeholder Challenge Group. It's quite hard to understand why this situation is going on. The government accepted more than 10 years ago that these sentences were wrong, yet there are thousands of prisoners still on them and people dying. So what isn't happening that should happen?
Well, the problem that we currently face is the IPP was abolished in 2012, but it had been in existence since 2005. So obviously during that time, thousands of people were given an IPP, indeed many more than had originally been planned for the sentence. And despite abolition in 2012, those people remain on the sentence subject to the IPP, either in prison, 1,300 people having never been released from prison, and then a further 1,600 people who have since been recalled back to custody.
But why don't they go through the parole system?
Well, they are going through the parole system, but what the Justice Committee found is that the IPP prisoners were facing very significant barriers to their progression, so being able to demonstrate reduced risk to the parole board, and that the IPP itself was having severe psychological impact on people, which in turn was creating a vicious cycle, making it harder for these people to progress properly through the sentence.
I mean, there will be, plenty of people out there. I mean, we had the Conservative Party conference today with sort of tough messaging on sentencing and life sentencing, who say, well, these were people who were judged by the legal system to be a threat to society. That's why they were locked up indeterminately. Why should I worry about them?
Well, I think it's important to recognise that Parliament itself has now abolished this sentence, so does not consider it to be a sentence that should be on the statute book. And many people who received an IPP during the time it was in existence, if they had received the equivalent determinate sentence for the crime that they had committed, they would have been out of prison years ago. But for them now, they still remain in prison many, many years over the expiry of their original tariff.
So what could the Justice Secretary do about this problem?
Well, the Justice Secretary himself has acknowledged that this sentence is a stain on our justice system, and he has promised to revisit the recommendations of the Justice Committee and its report on the IPP. He's already said that he wants to look at reviewing the what is known as the qualifying period for a licence review, bringing forward the date at when an IPP can have their licence reviewed in the community and have it potentially terminated. We would like him to go much further than that. Bob Neal, the chair of the Justice Committee, has put down an amendment to the Victims and Prisoners Bill, bringing forward that principal recommendation from the IPP report for the resentencing of IPP prisoners. We think with the UN's intervention, it is now the right time for the government to give very serious consideration to that recommendation.
Mark Day, thank you very much.
Aye, so what do you think, people? Canny sad, innit? I hope you'll all like and share this video just to raise awareness for all the people who's in that prison now doing IPP sentences. It's absolutely disgraceful what's going on there. People, they've just been left to rot. They really have. You know, it's very hard in prison to rehabilitate. The environment that you're in, the regime that you're in when you're in prison is there to suppress you, to mentally abuse you. And even when you do stick to all the rules and all that, the regime is still abusing you. So you didn't have to break the regime rules of the prison. It still abuses you. It's still... And when you're in prison and you don't deserve to be in prison, it's a different ball game. It really is. Psychologically, it messes you up good and proper. And these IPP prisoners are just, what can I say? You've seen it there for yourselves. You know what's going on with these people, you know. I was very lucky, like I say. I found Grendon. It helped me to come to terms with everything that had gone on in my life that turned us into that person when I got that person who deserved a life sentence, you know, and deal with all that, deal with all them criminal behaviours, all them criminal faults, the whole lot, you know. So when I left Grendon, I've managed to mentally sustain a positive, crime-free state of mind. You know, I didn't deal with any problems anymore in a negative way. Sometimes I didn't deal with them right, but I didn't deal with them using abuse and violence and wanting to go out and do crime to solve my problems and stuff like that, you know. Whereas these IPP prisoners, when they turn up at a place like Grendon, they find it hard, even though they really want to change, they find it hard because of the psychological damage that's been done to them. And they feel they end up back in the system. Whereas me, when I went back into the system, I was able to maintain a positive way forward, shall I say. That wasn't criminal, that wasn't taking drugs, that wasn't getting up to skullduggery on the landings and stuff and that, you know. The IPPs, they end up taking drugs, getting into trouble, all sorts of behavioural problems comes out of them, especially when they eventually do get the chance to address their offending behaviour. They get on these Mickey Mouse monetised cognitive behaviour courses, and as soon as they come off them, they're straight back to who they are. Emotionally, they haven't changed at all. They haven't been able to come to terms with nought at all. They've got any emotional resolve when you come off them courses, or nought, nothing. They want you thinking about helicopters and circles of relationships with red flags and it's honestly it's just all crazy. It's all, I mean, I went on an anger management course. I wasn't even angry in the photo. I will put him on an anger management course. You know, it made us angry. What can I say? It took us back to my past where I was thinking about angry situations, and it brought up loads of angry feelings and stuff and that from my past that I had to emotionally resolve again, you know. And that's what they've got, these IPPs. They get on these Mickey Mouse courses, we come off them, and they cannot sustain positive behaviour afterwards. And it's such a shame, and that's why a lot of them, you've seen, our 1,500 prisoners, IPP prisoners, have never been released. And that's the reason why. I don't know what else to say about it, but I will be making more videos, bringing more awareness to this situation. And I mean, there's some good ones around that I want to bring up about Matt Hancock and his role around the COVID and the effect that he had on the prison system and about release and stuff like that. I mean, it was absolutely disgusting. No wonder. I mean, well-being, the justice system has got no, the Ministry of Justice has got no concern, very little concern. It's at the bottom of the list for prisoners' welfare. You know, so anybody who thinks that prisoners have an easy time in prison, it's just or when they come under the criminal justice system, the Ministry of Justice, they've got no. As far as they're concerned, all they want to do is mentally abuse you, and that's that, you know. Aye. Well, I think the toe strike lifers, they're in the same situation, and they need help as well, because they don't deserve to be in prison or have these license conditions over them, you know. So they need help as well, because there's a lot of toe strike lifers in the prison as well. I mean, can you believe it? Out of what, 600 recalls of IPP prisoners, and 450 of them or something didn't commit any further offences. This just goes to show what I believe now around all this. You know, I believed that as long as you are not committing crime, you're having positive relationships, you're leading a positive lifestyle, then what excuse have they got to bring you back to jail? The risk assessments that are done on people and that are just not fair. They're just not fair. They don't want to manage people in the community, and that's what that number tells me about the IPP prisoner recall. They do not want to manage people. It's not good. It's not good at all. Well, in any case, you've got the UN saying it, the House of Parliament, the House of Lords have abolished this stupid IPP law. Now it's time for justice for them. They need proper psychological help outside of a prison environment. They need compensated, and they need to be given their life back and a chance, a real chance to live a decent, honest life. Well, people, I think that's enough for me, rabbiting on and all that. I'm a bit tired. I've had to do this segment twice. My first one was really good, but I was out of sync, so there we go. First time round's always the best one for me, so until I make the next video, I hope everybody stays safe and sound and you have loads of luck. Until then, bye everyone.